Spiritual arrogance is ignorance. You know, I've spent a lot of time with spiritual people of different faiths, and studied many different faiths, and honestly, never once really have I thought like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm more spiritual than you, or I'm more knowledgeable, more well-versed in scripture. I mean, in some cases, those things have maybe been true, but I didn't think that it made me better, because as soon as you do that, you're kind of actually lowering yourself in a way. You're kind of actually defeating the whole purpose, when realistically humility is one of the most undervalued virtues when it comes to that sort of thing. That's like one problem I think with like yoga, for example, and meditation. Like a lot of the time when I'm really into it, it's like I want to think like, oh, maybe I can meditate myself into some higher consciousness and gain some powers, you know, so I can be superhuman or some shit. It's kind of like a stupid thing to think, and it's a paradox too, because like the yogis and the gurus who apparently do have supernatural abilities, they're only able to have been able to attain them through essentially humility, and were granted these powers because basically they weren't willing to use them, or if they're going to use them, they use them for the good of everyone and not for themselves. And there's a lot of like spiritual stories about people who have attained like cities, for example, like yogic powers, and use them for bad, and something bad's always come out of it. And essentially, it's like too in Christianity, it's like they're getting these supernatural powers through demonic force rather than godly or angelic force. And it's kind of the same thing as I interpret it in Eastern traditions as well. But yeah, honestly, that's something that seriously always annoyed me really badly, is like when people are so ridiculously arrogant in their faith. And to me, it's kind of like, it shows that realistically they have no faith, especially because their ego is really what's foremost. And it makes me think of this one story I just was thinking of, where like a few years ago I was out for a walk in my local nature path, and I was just smoking a joint, you know, enjoying nature, and I see some old guy coming up the trail, and as soon as I see him, I'm like, oh well, I'll put out my joint for when he walks by. And I guess maybe he interpreted it as like I was hiding it, or I was ashamed or something. And realistically, I was putting it out because, like, even when I was a smoker, I didn't appreciate secondhand smoke very much, and I know others don't, so I was just trying to be considerate. I didn't want to talk to this guy, but he comes up to me and starts, like, I don't even know how he started, but he just starts lecturing me, like going off all of a sudden out of nowhere. About his religion, about Christianity, basically, or his idea of Christianity more specifically. And I'm like, okay, whatever, man. And he's like judging me too. He's like, yeah, you know, like you can be saved, you know, like you really, maybe you need help, and like if you come to our church, you know, like Jesus, you know, that's the way that you can overcome addiction, like alcohol, anything, like even like cannabis. And he kind of like looks towards the joint that I'm holding, and I'm like, whatever, dude, like what's your point? And I don't even know what the fuck was wrong with this guy, but he just starts going off, and suddenly he starts trashing other religions. Like he suddenly starts going off about, yeah, Christianity's the only real religion because, like, for example, Buddha is satanic and Buddhism is satanic, and the Buddha is a false prophet because the Buddha never resurrected. Christ resurrected, so he's the only real prophet. And I'm like, how ignorant is this guy? Like, for one thing, there's no claim in Buddhism that the Buddha was going to resurrect. That wasn't the goal. In fact, the whole point is to get out of the karmic cycle, out of the cycle of rebirth, and not resurrect. Like, if that's true, for all we know, you are resurrected and you're still on level 1 and you got many more lives to live because apparently you haven't learned anything. And, like, so not only is he completely ignorant and judging another faith based on his conception of reality and his faith, it's like, even if that's true, it doesn't make that faith less valid, and it doesn't make yours better. And funny thing is too, like, a lot of people ask, and I would say, yeah, I guess in a way I consider myself a Christian, because I just so happen to like a lot of things about the Christian faith, and I like the Bible. It's a nice piece of scripture. And I mean, realistically, I always joke, like, in the Western world, whether we like it or not, we're all Christians, because I always ask people, well, what year is it? Well, it's 2026. Right, and what does that mean? It's 2026 years after the death of Christ. The whole calendar is based around this faith system. So whether you like it or not, we're a part of it. And I mean, the way our government is set up, the way that essentially our moral values are shared in society is mostly based around the Christian ideology. But where I'm going is, like, I'm a big supporter of the Christian faith, but funny enough, I don't really believe in a lot of things that the mainstream Christian narrative pushes. Like, one thing is, people are like, if the resurrection isn't real, then the Christian faith is in big trouble. Well, I mean, why? It doesn't devalue any of the lessons that are in Scripture or any of the stories that come from the Bible, the ancient wisdom that's been ingrained in it. If Christ didn't physically resurrect, it doesn't devalue those things. But a lot of people are like that. They have to believe in the resurrection or else it's not legit. Well, I mean, it's funny because when I was reading the Bible, or when I do read the Bible rather, honestly, my interpretation of the stories about the resurrection are not what the mainstream thinks. When I read it, I think, to me, it almost seems obvious that the resurrection is not in a physical, bodily sense, but rather in a spiritual sense. Because the way Christ, after his death, the way he appears to his followers usually is in sort of like an ethereal way most of the time. And he tends to just suddenly appear and disappear, and kind of almost like a ghost, like a spirit. And I'm not fully convinced that Christ just resurrected to come back as a human just to prove a point. And realistically, I kind of think that the whole story was essentially made up by his followers. They probably broke into the tomb somehow or another, hid his body, and I do believe they probably had real spiritual visions of Christ. But do I think he just came back as a human who all of a sudden was transformed and had even more magical powers than he did before he died? Not really. Not really, honestly. But that doesn't defeat the purpose of it for me. It's kind of like I don't need to believe that the story of Noah and the ark is 100% true for it to still have some sort of actual wisdom and value within the story. But anyway, like, this particular guy, that it was like lecturing me and stuff. Like, the whole time I wasn't even arguing with him, because reminds me of this meme of, it's like Sadhguru, and he's talking, I think, or maybe it's just some yogi, but I think they use Sadhguru in it too. And this guy's like, what is one of the keys to happiness? And he's like, don't argue with fools. And he's like, no, I don't think that's right. And he goes, yeah, you're right. That's exactly how I felt when this guy was trying to lecture me about his stupid little, like, cult church that he went to and stuff too. Like, he went to some church with like 10 people. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure the 10 of you have it totally figured out and everybody else is wrong. Like, narcissists. But so I just sat there and was like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. I'm just kind of like, it's eventually just like acted so disinterested in his crap that eventually he walked away and was like, oh yeah, like, you gotta come to my church and stuff. I'm like, yeah, totally. You know, like, definitely gonna consider that, yeah. I don't know if he was intelligent enough to detect sarcasm, but eventually he got the point and he walked away, and then I like lit up my joint again and was like, what an idiot. Like, little did he know that realistically I had already been on my own journey, spirituality and faith at this point. And I've been to multiple different churches and so on. And yeah, clearly I knew a lot more about the other faiths than he did, because he didn't know absolutely anything. Not saying like, oh, I'm smarter than him. I just happen to have studied more about other things that are outside of his particular narrow worldview, you know? But the point is basically, shut up, you know? Like, I don't go around telling you, this is the answer, this is the only way. Anyone who does that's an idiot. Like, in any case. And it's the same thing with all this modern spirituality too, which is such crap, most of it. Like, and yeah, these, like, the people, they think they have to like dress a certain way, act a certain way, and like, reminds me of this ceremony I went to. It was a mescaline ceremony, and everyone's like so woo-woo, like, you know, kumbaya type crap. And they're all like, oh yeah, my intention for this is blah blah blah, and blah. Like, I don't know, I didn't listen to, it's just words, you know. I could say all this, my intention is to become one with my inner self and to experience nature in its fullness and to allow the ancestral knowledge to flow through me. Like, I can make up crap too. It's pretty easy, actually. You know. Is any of that true? No. Like, oh, so you're a master bullshitter. It doesn't make you more spiritual. Like, and anyway, at this mescaline ceremony, I was literally eating like more than twice as much as everyone else did there. And I'm like, this stuff is crap. It's not even getting me high. And they're like, well, it's maybe because you weren't clear about your intention. And I was like, I am clear about my intention. My intention is to get fucking high. And it's not working. Yeah, like, you know, it's like you could just bring a whole bunch of non-alcoholic beer to a ceremony tell people it's like the I can't remember the beer that the ancient Greeks drank that had like ergot in it, basically acid, that made them trip. You could just tell them like, oh, this beer is psychedelic and it'll make you so high, and you know, like really be strong about your intention before you drink it, and you know, take a look at the stars and align with your astrological signs, and then chug it, and then you'll see the deities and the spirit guides that are with you. And you know, a lot of people would believe it, and they would just start tripping out, like off of basically water and flavored with wheat. Like the power of suggestion, I guess. But anyway, we're all just humans having a human experience in a world that really nobody can truly understand. So don't pretend you have the answers, and don't pretend you're better than someone because you think you know something. And if you got a really good idea, unless somebody asks for it, keep it to yourself.